Alam mo, madalas kapag nag-iisip tayo tungkol sa tagumpay, lalo na sa impact ng mga ginagawa natin, napakadaling tumingin sa numbers.
Oo, kasi yun yung pinakamadaling makita eh. Parang instant validation siya.
Exactly. Parang sa social media lang yan, ang daling bilangin ng likes, ng shares, ng followers. May instant dashboard ka na nagsasabi na, hey, sikat ka.
Right, right. Maraming nakikinig sa'yo.
Pero kung tatanungin kita ngayon, paano mo susukatin kung ilan dyan sa libo-libong followers mo ang tunay mong kaibigan?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one.
'Di ba? Yung tipong handang damayan ka, pakinggan ka, at samahan ka talaga sa oras ng matinding problema o krisis. Biglang nagiging malabo yung pagsukat eh.
Oo, kasi hindi mo pwedeng i-graph yung loyalty o yung pagmamahal.
Ayun nga, at yan mismong illusion ng numbers. Ang babasagin natin ngayon sa deep dive natin. Nakabatay ito sa isang fascinating document na tinatawag na Measuring Mission Effectiveness.
At yung mission natin sa paghimay nito is harapin ang isang napaka-uncomfortable na katotohanan.
Kasi it really is uncomfortable, right?
Sobra. Bakit ba ang pagiging busy o yung pagkataroon ng napakaraming activities sa isang organisasyon, lalo na sa mga ministry at non-profits, ay hindi laging nangangahulugan na may totoong impact?
Tamang-tama yung analogy natin kanina sa social media kasi the source material points out how easily we trade depth for visibility.
Yes, yung kung anong mabilis makita, yun agad ang tingin nating totoo. At gusto kong i-highlight na yung pagbabantay sa metrics, it's not some cold corporate concept na pinipilit lang ipasok sa church o sa cause-oriented groups.
Wait, so hindi siya parang pagiging corporate sellout kasi yun yung takot ng iba eh.
Hindi, definitely not. It's actually about stewardship. Kasi, kung may ipinagkatiwala sa yung resources, tao, oras, pera, may pananagutan kang alamin kung nagbubunga ba talaga yan.
O kung nagpapakadisi ka nang para i-justify yung existence ng grupo ninyo.
Exactly. At yan mismo yung concept na tinatawag sa notes natin na motion versus mission. Yung paggalaw kumpara sa tunay na misyon.
Bakit ba ang daling matrap dun sa motion? Parang as long as may event every week, feeling natin nanalo tayo. Like grabe ang dami nating ginagawa, so we must be doing great.
Nangyayari yan kasi yung visibility gives us comfort. Yung nakikita mo na may mga taong nagpapabalik-balik, may ingay, may nagaganap, it acts as a psychological safety net.
A safety net? Okay, makes sense.
Kasi isipin mo, sa corporate world, kung puro ka meeting pero wala kang sales, mabilis lalabas yan sa profit and loss statement eh.
Oo nga, tanggal ka agad pag ganun.
Right. Pero sa ministry or volunteer groups, ang pagiging busy acts as a moral cover.
Oh man, a moral cover, that is heavy.
Pwede kang maging insanely busy for 10 years. Nag-organize ng events, nagpapa-meeting every Tuesday, tapos never mo talagang natanong kung may buhay ba na nababago. The activity itself becomes the justification for the activity.
Grabe yung moral cover kasi nga naman, sino magagalit sa'yo? Eh, naglilingkod ka naman, di ba?
Walang magko-question sa pagod mo.
May magandang comparison dito sa research natin tungkol sa dalawang churches sa isang city. So let's look at Church A. Yung una, grabe yung hype.
Maingay. Laging may kaganapan.
Oo, at the branding is incredibly slick. The numbers are shooting up, so kung titingnan mo from the outside, they are winning. Sila yung model of success.
Pero sa loob, according to the document, patay na patay sa pagod yung mga tao.
Mabilis ma-burnout yung volunteers, and kung titingnan mo yung faith ng mga members, it's very shallow. Puro motion, zero depth.
Samantalang yung pangalawang church, dun sa case study, Church B, they operate under the radar. Mas maliit ang budget, walang smoke machines o malalaking billboards.
So hindi sila Instagrammable, kumbaga?
Hindi talaga, pero grabe yung care ila sa community. Matiyaga ilang ginagabayan yung mga youth, inaalalayan yung mga broken families, they are producing mature leaders na may totoong love for the community.
Mabagal yung growth, walang viral moments.
Pero matibay. So, the real question the document asks is, sino diyang ang mas effective?
Under the world's wet tricks, yung una, definitely.
Pero under the lens of genuine mission, the second one is actually doing the work that lasts.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. Kasi feeling tuloy ng iba ngayon, masama ang malaking numero.
I can see why they'd think that.
Sinasabi ba natin na mali ang magbilang? Kasi kung titingnan mo sa Biblia, lalo na sa Book of Acts, literal na naka-record doon na 3,000 ang nabautismuhan sa isang araw.
Yeah, that's a very specific number.
'Di ba may tracking ng numbers doon? So, hindi naman pwedeng inherently bad ang metrics. Nagbibilang din sila noon eh.
Exactly. Hindi sinasabi ng source natin na masama ang numbers. In fact, if you don't track numbers at all, that's just negligence.
Tamad na, tawag doon.
Oo. Ang linya na ginamit doon, which is brilliant, is numbers are servants, not sovereigns.
Numbers are servants, not sovereigns. I love that.
Ang metrics ay andyan para maglingkod sa'yo. Para ipakita yung patterns, yung reach, yung logistics ninyo, pero hindi sila yung hari na magdidictate kung successful ka o hindi.
The numbers show that movement happened. May attendance, may pumunta.
Pero hindi kayang ipakita ng attendance sheet kung may isang asawa doon sa likod na sa wakas ay natutong magpatawad.
O kaya, isang teenager na nakarecover sa matinding depression. Walang checkbox for that.
Wala talaga. Kaya servant, not sovereign.
So kung hindi natin gagawing hari ang attendance at headcounts, paano mo malalaman na may totoong nangyayari?
Yung framework na binigay dito shifts the focus into 5 dimensions of mission effectiveness.
5 dimensions, okay. Let's go through them. Yung una is participation. Pero wait, if participation isn't just attendance, ano siya? Kasi hindi ba head count din yan?
Ang malaking difference is the shift from just being present to taking ownership.
Ownership. Paano ba makikita yan?
Hindi natin tinatanong na ilan ang pumunta sa seminar. Ang tanong dyan is, sino sa mga pumunta ang bumalik para tumulong mag-ayos ng upuan kinabukasan?
Oh, that is a huge difference from consumer to contributor.
Exactly. Sino yung nagsimulang i-apply sa sarili nilang buhay yung misyon at hindi na lang umasa sa inyo na pakainin sila ng information? Pag nagkaroon ng ownership, that naturally leads to the second dimension.
Which is discipleship growth, na sobrang hirap sukating kasi that's the slow, hidden work of changing character.
Totoo. It's not a program you can just finish in a weekend.
And then, connected dyan yung pangatlong dimension, which is healthy partnerships.
Ito yung part na medyo masakit para sa maraming organizations.
Bakit masakit?
Kasi pag sinabi nating partnership, minsan ang totoo niyan is patronization. Yung isang group lang lagi nagbibigay ng pera, nag-o-organize, nagde-decide, tapos yung community is just receiving.
Walang mutuality.
Wala! Nawawala ng boses at dignidad yung tinutulungan ninyo kasi kayo laging may hawak ng kontrol. That's a huge blind spot sa non-profit sector.
True. Partnership means sharing power, di ba? And recognizing na may matututunan din tayo sa kanila.
Precisely. Tapos yung pang-apat na dimension dyan is resource alignment. Are we putting our money and our time where our mission is?
Eto yung favorite part ko. Parang pag-check yan ng bank statement mo at ng screen time sa phone mo.
Oh, the ultimate truth tellers.
Di ba? Kasi kahit anong ganda ng speech mo na, ay ang top priority ko ay ang pamilya at health ko. Kung titingnan yung bank statement mo, puro ka online shopping at junk food, tapos yung screen time mo is 6 hours a day sa social media.
The budget and the calendar are telling the truth.
Exactly. The same goes for organizations. Pag sinabi nilang priority namin ang poor, tapos nag-approve sila ng 2 milyong budget para sa bago at magarang chandelier ng main lobby nila,
Habang nag-aagawan ng pondo yung soup kitchen project nila?
the misalignment is screaming at you.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you know what's fascinating there? That misalignment usually isn't born out of malicious intent.
Wait, really? Hindi ba intentional hypocrisy yon?
Usually no. Hindi naman sila gumising at sinabing, let's ignore the poor today. It happens because institutions default to self-preservation. Maintenance over mission.
Maintenance over mission. So they just want to keep the lights on and keep people happy.
Oo, mas pinoprotektahan natin yung nakasanayan nating structures, yung comfort ng mga regular members, kesa dun sa actual mission na nasa labas.
Wow, that is sobering.
Which leads to the final dimension, yung panglima, outcomes and fruit. And there's a vital distinction here between output, outcome, and fruit.
Kailangan natin i-breakdown yan kasi ang daling pagpalitan yung tatlo.
Sige, paano ba natin i-differentiate yan?
Ang output is what you did. Nag-organize ka ng financial literacy seminar. That's your output.
Okay, so that's the activity itself?
Yes. Tapos ang outcome is the measurable result. Sabihin nating 10 families opened a savings account after the seminar.
Good outcome. Clear result.
Pero the fruit, ang bunga, is the life that grows over time. Makikita mo after 3 years, yung mga pamilyang yon, hindi na nag-aaway dahil sa pera, mas peaceful yung bahay nila.
At baka sila na mismo yung nagtuturo sa kapitbahay nila ngayon kung paano mag-ipon.
Exactly. You cannot force fruit. You can't put it on a rigid timeline. Lumalago lang siya organically if connected doon sa tamang source.
Pero dyan papasok yung challenge eh. Kasi, as an organization, gusto natin laging may report for the board or for the donor.
Gusto nila ng chart.
Gusto ng chart. Kung hindi mo ma-force yung fruit, paano mo itatrack without turning these human experiences into cold data points sa spreadsheet?
Sa notes natin, they emphasize this delicate balance between quantitative and qualitative data. Kailangan pareho.
Hindi pwedeng isa lang.
Hindi eh. Data without story is cruel, but story without data is delusional.
Beyond. Yung numbers, yung quantitative are essential to see the trend. Makikita mo yung patterns, kung saan may leak sa pipeline ninyo, kung gaano kalawak yung reach.
It stops you from being overly emotional and relying on just one good experience. Like, baka isang tao lang yung natulungan nyo the whole year tapos feeling nyo successful na ang buong program.
Oo, yung kwento na yun might be an outlier. Pero yung stories, yung qualitative, give meaning to the numbers. May quote sa source natin na tumatatak talaga. You can't give repentance a score from 1 to 10.
Right. Walang spreadsheet na kayang sukatin the value of tears from a father who finally reconciled with his estranged son.
Walang metric for genuine healing.
So what does this all mean? Paano pag nag-clash yung dalawa? What if pababa ng pababa yung attendance, which makes the board of directors panic? Pero yung mga natitirang tao naman, grabe yung lalim ng mga stories of transformation.
That happens a lot. Anong susundin mo doon? Yung failing graph o yung glowing testimonies?
Oo nga, anong gagawin mo as a leader?
Diyan mo na kailangan ng discernment. Kasi minsan, a dropping number isn't a failure, it's a filtration process.
A filtration process, interesting.
Baka unti-unting umaalis yung mga tao kasi tinanggal nyo na yung mga shallow entertainment events at nag-focus na kayo sa totoong discipleship na demanding at mahirap.
Kasi the moment you ask for real commitment, maraming umatras.
Exactly. Think about John chapter 6 sa Biblia. When Jesus started teaching hard truths, thousands walked away. His numbers tanked.
Literal na nag-unfollow sila.
Oo, pero hindi niya pinalambot yung message to win back the crowd. Because shrinking is sometimes necessary for purity and genuine depth.
Wow, that completely flips the script on how we view declining numbers. Hindi laging masama pala.
Hindi laging masama. Sometimes it means you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do.
To make this super practical for you listening right now, tingnan natin yung case study sa notes natin about the Neighborhood Table Fellowship.
This is a great example of applying all these dimensions.
Ito yung ini-launch nilang initiative na sobrang simple. No stage, no concert, no heavy marketing. Ang mission lang is palagi ang pagsasalo-salo sa dinner ng small groups from the church kasama yung mga isolated and marginalized families sa community.
Eating together regularly. Period. Napakasimple.
Pero nag-set sila ng 3 key performance indicators or KPIs, and ang galing kung paano nila ginawa ito without making it feel like a corporate audit.
Because they designed the KPIs to measure the right things. Unang KPI nila is the numeric indicator.
Okay, so gumamit pa rin sila ng numbers.
Yes, pero ang binilang nila, hindi lang yung ilan ng napakain natin ngayon. They tracked the number of households na nagko-commit to a consistent presence, at least twice a month.
Consistency over contact.
Exactly. Gusto nilang malaman kung may nagiging habit ba yung fellowship, hindi lang yung one-off na dole-out or charity event na pamigay bigas.
Tapos yung pangalawa is the relational indicator. Dito nila tinitrack yung percentage ng mga families na may relational anchor.
Relational anchor. That's a great term.
Ibig sabihin, nakakasama ba ng family na itong same set of volunteers for at least 6 months? Ang ganda nung logic nito kasi trust requires memory and presence.
Oo nga, you can't build trust if paiba-iba yung tao.
Paano ka nga naman mag-o-open up ng problema mo sa buhay kung iba-ibang mukha yung naka-assign sa inyo every single week? Parang laging day one yung conversation nyo.
Exactly. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds relationship, and relationship builds the foundation for the third KPI, which is the spiritual indicator.
And paano nila sinukat yun?
For this one, they relied on documented testimonies of unforced spiritual growth.
Unforced. That's the key word.
Yes. Nagkusa bang magtanong about faith? Nagkusa bang mag-pray yung family members for each other bago kumain?
Here's where it gets really interesting. What's brilliant here is that these KPIs aren't used as surveillance mechanisms to police the volunteers or force the community to convert.
They are tools for stewardship. They allow the leaders to see where the Spirit is moving so they can join in, rather than trying to manufacture the movement themselves.
You're using the data to see clearly, not to control blindly.
That's a perfect way to summarize it.
Pero realistically, paano ba natin gagawing habit itong pag-evaluate nang hindi nagiging purely bureaucratic nightmare? Kasi kung once a year lang tayo mag-evaluate tuwing annual planning, tapos itatago na yung report sa drawer,
Wala ring kwenta.
'di ba? Our source talks about establishing an evaluation rhythm. Paano ba nangyayari sa totoong buhay yan pag nakaupo na kayo sa meeting room?
It's about asking 6 specific questions regularly and being brutally honest with the answers.
Sige, let's go through those 6 questions quickly. Ano yung una?
Una, ano talaga ang ginawa natin? Not what we planned to do, not the PR spin, but what actually happened.
No sugarcoating. Pangalawa?
Sino ang pinaglingkuran natin? Did we actually reach the marginalized people we set out to help? O nagsettle tayo dun sa mga madaling imbitahin na kapareho lang din natin ang background?
Ouch. Ang dalas mangyari niyan. Tapos yung pangatlo.
Ano ang nagbago? Again, looking for outcomes and fruit, not just checking the box na natapos na ang event.
Tapos yung pang-apat. Ano ang natutunan natin? Dito lumalabas yung mga palpak na strategies.
Kailangan nating aminin pag may hindi gumana. Panglima, ano ang ibinubunyag ng espiritu? May blind spots ba tayo na pinapakita sa atin? Or a new direction na ayaw nating puntahan kasi nakakatakot?
And then yung pinakamabigat na tanong, yung pang-anim. Ano ang dapat ituloy, baguhin, o ihinto?
Men, yung word na ihinto, ang hirap niyan.
Paano mo nga naman sasabihin sa team mo o sa mga board members mo na kailangan na nating patayin yung beloved program ninyo na 20 years nyo nung ginagawa dahil wala na pala siyang impact?
This raises an important question. Bakit ba takot tayong mag-evaluate? Dahil nakakatakot aminin na ang paborito nating programa ay wala ng kwenta. And that is exactly why the document stresses the absolute need for external voices.
Kailangan mo ng outsider's perspective.
Yes, kailangan mo ng boses mula sa labas ng inner circle ninyo. Kasi in an echo chamber, everyone will defend their favorite program.
Kasi attached sila emotionally.
You need someone who isn't emotionally attached to say, hey, you are spending 40% of your budget and time on this activity and it's yielding 0 fruit.
And yes, that creates immense discomfort. Nobody likes hearing that they've wasted effort.
But that discomfort is a profound gift, because feeling uncomfortable is the first necessary step of repentance. It's the signal that you are finally stepping out of your moral cover and into reality.
Alam mo, parang pagtingin sa isang napakalinaw na salamin matapos ang mahabang panahon. Nakakagulat at nakakahiya makita yung mga dumi sa mukha mo, pero kailangan mong makita iyon para mahilamusan mo at maging malinis.
Exactly. Or another way to look at it, it's a diagnostic tool, not a punishment.
Parang band-aid, no? Pag naisip ko yung discomfort na yan ng pag-evaluate, parang siyang pagtanggal ng band-aid dun sa sugat na matagal mo nang tinatago sa ilalim ng long sleeves.
You just keep pretending it's healing.
Oo.
You keep telling yourself na nag-heal naman siya basta hindi mo nakikita. Pero pag tinanggal mo yung band-aid at hinarap mo siya, ang sakit. It stings. Baka makita mo na infected pala at kailangan linisin.
It's messy.
Pero that pain is the only way para magamot mo talaga siya and save the whole arm. Instead of pretending everything is fine while it rots. That's what honest evaluation is, pulling off the organizational band-aid.
Spot on. When you pull that band-aid off, yes, it exposes the flaws, but it also frees you to align your energy and your resources back to the true mission. You stop doing things just to look busy, and you start investing in things that actually bring life.
What an incredible paradigm shift. So if we pull all these threads together, ang malinaw is this. The true impact of any mission is never measured by how loud it is, how busy the calendar looks, or how perfectly formatted the annual report is.
Nasusukat siya dun sa slow, unglamorous, but undeniable fruit of changed lives.
And measuring that isn't just some cold corporate exercise na ini-import natin sa ministry. The document is clear. It is an act of worship and deep stewardship.
It's taking care of what was given to you.
So for you listening to us right now, whether you're leading a team at work, running a volunteer group, or serving in your local community, think about where your energy goes. Puro ka ba motion na mabilis mapansin at ipost sa social media?
O namumuhunan ka dun sa mission na mabagal mang mamunga sa simula ay may pangmatagalang epekto sa buhay ng iba.
Are you treating your metrics as your servant to help you see better or as your sovereign that dictates your worth?
That's a question we all need to answer honestly.
And I want to leave you with this final thought, a direct challenge based on what we've unpacked today. Paano ko ang pinakamabunga at pinaka-strategic na hakbang na pwede mong gawin bukas ay hindi ang magsimula ng panibagong inisyatibo o mag-add ng panibagong item sa calendar mo?
What if the answer isn't more activity?
Paano kung ang pinakatamang gawin mo right now ay tuluyan ng ihinto yung isang sikat at nakakabusy na programang umuubos lang pala ng pera at oras ninyo nang walang tunay na impact? Minsan, para makahinga at lumago ang tunay na buhay, kailangan nating maging matapang na putulin yung mga sangang maingay pero wala namang bunga. Look closely at what you're measuring and make sure you're measuring what actually matters. Hanggang sa susunod na deep dive.